Joining us now here on set is Democratic Congressman from the old line state of Maryland, Glenn Ivey, who has had a great deal to say about law enforcement in this country. He's a former prosecutor and serves on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thanks for being here. We appreciate you as always.
Thanks for having me.
You criticized Christopher Wray's decision to step aside as FBI director before his 10-year term concluded. So we looked it up, which is he's the first, there's been only one FBI director serve a full 10-year term. That was Robert Mueller. Every other one since the 10-year term was put in 1976 has left early, and at least two have been fired. Obviously, including James Comey in spectacular fashion. You say
seems to be a pattern there.
You say Wray is making it too easy on Trump, but sort of hasn't the ship sailed on the idea that presidents can't fire and that this precedent is ironclad?
No, I mean, I think, you know, leaving because an incoming president says he's going to bring in someone else is a little bit different than somebody leaving to go do something in the private sector or something along those lines. The firing of Comey and this, I think, are a bad combination and undermine the original intent of the 10-year term, which is to depoliticize the FBI director office. And so I think it's pretty clear, especially when you combine that history with the nomination of Patel to take over, that it's, you know, Trump's moving the FBI in a very political direction, and I think that's problematic, not only for the country overall, but for the rule of law and the department in particular.
Christopher Wray's advocates, defenders would say that he's made things harder, not easier for Donald Trump, because now Kash Patel, who is controversial, has to go through a normal confirmation process. There can't be any switcheroo where Trump can basically appoint him as acting FBI director, and this also gives Wray the chance to shore up the agency with his picks before he leaves. What about that?
I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I kind of doubt that whatever he does before he leaves is going to be permanent, in the sense that when Patel gets there, he can't change it. And, you know, I mean, that's basically what he's saying he's going there to do, is to not only just change Wray's most recent, you know, personnel moves, but to revamp the whole department, or the whole bureau overall. Frankly, I've got more concerns beyond just, you know, Wray's particular lieutenants and what happens with them. I think the rule of law issues, you know, Patel coming in with an enemies list, I think those are the kinds of things we really need to focus on at this point.
I certainly take your point there, but, you know, we have this new Inspector General's report that talks about the former administration and maybe the FBI doing wrong-footed surveillance on journalists, on maybe even Patel himself when he was working in the House. We've had warrantless wiretapping problems that we saw in what ultimately turned out to be the Mueller report on Russian interference in the 2016 election. There are needs for reform at the FBI, yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's one of the rare moments in the House Judiciary Committee where you had bipartisan activity was over this issue. The FBI did a lot of things, I thought, that crossed the line. The FISA 702 legislation was aimed at rolling that back. And the votes that you had on that legislation when it hit the floor, you never would have imagined, you know, Matt Gaetz teaming up with Pramila Jayapal for particular votes, but that's what we had. So I think there's a recognition that there needs to be some changes in the FBI, and I think we tried to make those steps move forward at the time, but there's more to be done. That having been said, coming in and saying you're going to use the FBI to go after your enemies is a whole different ball of wax.
Okay, pardons. It's that time. Every 4 or 8 years we get to do this as we go through presidential transitions. They save the doozies for the end. There's been a lot of criticism, obviously, of Joe Biden's pardon of his son Hunter, and some criticism for this big slate of pardons, the biggest single day pardon in presidential history. But Jim Clyburn, who was actually an advocate of the Hunter Biden pardon, wants the president to go farther, to, quote, clear the air and pardon Donald Trump. What do you say about the idea of Joe Biden pardoning his predecessor and successor and saying we're putting those issues to bed and we're turning the page on the 2020 election?
I would say no.
No.
I would, well, I was a young kid at the time, but I didn't favor Ford pardoning Nixon.
Really?
Even I did not, and that's because I thought accountability. I didn't say it this way at 12, but I thought accountability.
Actually, you might have. You strike me as somebody who might have at 12 been that way.
I was a bit of a nerd, okay, but I think really being held accountable for your actions makes sense, and the Trump legacy of his court activities in between his terms as president, I think should be hashed out. Now he gets his 4 years while he's in the White House. He's sort of everything has stayed while he's there, but I don't think all that stuff should go away, especially not the criminals.
I'm on danger.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.